let's welcome Dei Lynam back to Philly Pressbox Radio. Dei, always great to have you, and we're in first place tonight. We can talk about.
Yes, the Sixers are absolutely in first place, playing pretty good basketball. I would say 9-1 in their last 10.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dei, great to have you back on with us again. We usually have you on a couple of times a year, and it seems like every February we've had you on. So that's your birthday month. We somehow didn't get you on last month. We hope that didn't spoil your birthday for you. Hope you still had a good one.
Absolutely. And any birthday that you have at this point, you're happy that you're celebrating in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, tell us about that. Well, Dei, as we speak, I'm going to put up the standings for those of us, for those people watching, rather, the video. And it does show the Sixers 31-13 through 44 games, the best start they've had in quite a while. And even without Joel Embiid, the last week and a half or so, they're doing well. They've won, as you said, 9 out of 10. How much of the team's success this season is attributable to Doc Rivers?
Well, I think it's definitely a certain amount of it definitely goes to him and his staff. I would say that. But they also changed their personnel. You know, they did not have a roster that worked a year ago. And, you know, to their good credit, being able to move Horford, I think, was huge. Bringing in guys like Danny Green and Seth Curry, big. And then, as you mentioned, Doc Rivers and his staff, looking at the roster that they have and playing to the strengths of that roster. And the number one thing is they play through Joel Embiid. I think he, you know, touches the ball more than he did before. I think they try to go to his strengths. I think he's embraced that role. And then as a result, everything else kind of falls in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sure seems like Embiid has picked up his game, but now we can shoot. You know, I think we talked about this last year about this time, is they just didn't have the shooters, and now they do.
Well, I have to disagree with you a little bit, Bill. They have shooters, but they don't take enough threes, and they don't make enough threes, in my opinion, to advance as far as you want to go. You're at the bottom. You make less than 11 a game. You're going to have to go through a Brooklyn or Milwaukee who, you know, they're up in the 15, and on given nights, they make 20-some threes. So you're going to either have to create more possessions. Obviously, getting to the foul line is one, and Embiid's, you know, best in the business this year at getting to the line, and he makes a high percentage. But when you're not able to contribute at the three-point line like a lot of these teams are, then you're going to need to have a strategy, and it does put a lot of pressure on your offense to make the twos when the other team is making threes.
Well, Dei, as we speak, it's Wednesday evening. We are about 20 hours, I think, from the trade deadline. You say they need another shooter, a guy who can make threes, like a Alonzo Ball, perhaps, or Kyle Lowry, of course, much mentioned. Who do you see them going after particularly, or can they still compete and maybe win the East without making any additions?
Well, I'd like to see them, like a Lowry to me elevates their team on a number of levels. One, he's actually shooting the three really well this year, over 40%. He's a winner. You know, there's a toughness to him. He's won a championship, right? So he's a Philly guy. I think there's a lot of things there. And I think that if you, similar to when, now I'm not putting them in the same category, but when Brooklyn got Harden, all of a sudden Brooklyn like goes to a different place. If a Kyle is added to an Embiid and Ben Simmons situation, I think you're talking at a different level than what they are currently constructed. Can they still do it, meaning come out of the East without a move? They can, but you are then relying on guys like Shake, who's picked it up a little bit of late, but Shake, Thibault, Maxey, you know, these guys are in their rotation, Furkan, that where they have gone up and down with their shooting, you're going to have them be more consistent three-point shooters.
And Dei, go back to Lowry. Are you willing? Do you think that the Sixers would be willing to make a big deal and give up maybe a little more than they should to go all in to win this thing this year?
I mean, I think Daryl Morey, just by track record, if he sees that as the piece that will get him over the top, I would not want to be wasting an MVP caliber season of Joel Embiid and not do everything I can to have enough around him. And that is, I'm assuming, I don't think we'll see him, obviously not this entire road trip. And I do think they'll take their time. The fact that they're banking wins without him, they're on record. We want him absolutely healthy for the postseason run. That doesn't mean I think he's going to be out months, but instead of being 2 weeks, I think you're at least 3, maybe 3.5, just to be safe. So I think they would be willing people to make a move, because I think the other thing is it's so hard to get there and then try to win it. And everybody else is trying to do the same thing. You know, you have 2 teams that aren't going away in Brooklyn and Milwaukee, and Brooklyn's doing it. Well, Kyrie didn't play last night, Durant's sideline, and they're right there on your heels. So I know everybody says they don't play defense, but they got a heck of a lot of offense, and something's going to give in that postseason. So they're trying to get there. Milwaukee went out and got a PJ Tucker just to make their greater depth. I would be shocked if the Lakers don't try to do something, and obviously the 2 guys have to get healthy.
A lot of Sixers fans have fallen in love with a couple of the young guys. Matisse Thybulle doesn't score a lot, but he is already one of the premier defenders in the league, and nobody wants to see him traded. And then you have Tyrese Maxey, who's not playing as much as he did earlier in the season, but we think he has a lot of potential. Do you think they should try to maintain both of those guys, or will they have to give up at least one of those 2 young guys in a trade?
Well, it depends on what level of person you're trying to go out and get. Like, are you just going to wait and see what's on the buyout market, or are you trying to get a guy like a Kyle Lowry? They're 2 totally different situations. I say to people that, unfortunately, Maxey and Thybulle being here on this year, when you get to the postseason and your rotation is down to 8 guys, they're not going to be the reason you win a championship. I love their talent, but I cannot stop and not try to improve my roster in the here and now when I have guys like Simmons and Embiid playing at a really high level. And again, you got to take advantage of the opportunity of where they are in their careers.
Hey, Chet mentioned that we're kind of in love with a couple of young guys. Why is it that the Philly fans are not able to embrace Ben Simmons? It seems like whatever he does, it's not enough, and he's still a kid, really. But it's just not. It just doesn't seem enough to make Philly fans happy.
Well, I think because his game goes against the one thought of what people think basketball players are, and that is
shoot the ball. Yeah.
Right. So, and because he seems so content in playing the way he plays, which obviously garnered him an all-star appearance this year. I would say this, and again, he could do it on a more consistent basis. He averaged 21 points in February. And I do believe, had he not had the month in February, that he would not have gone to the All-Star. He would not have gone averaging his 13 points that he started out the season. I don't think so. I think the other thing is he is getting to the line more, foul line. But again, I don't have a lot of faith in Ben on the line in a 4th quarter. I've seen it too often. And I don't have a lot of faith that as you get further into the playoffs, when possessions become fewer, that you will not find situations where he could hurt you in a half-court game. Now, I will say this. Doc posts him a lot more. Doc takes the ball out of him and makes him be a guy in motion. So, or a screener. And I think Ben has embraced that. Doc doesn't really try to change him, but he does utilize him differently. So, but back to your point, Bill, why Philly doesn't embrace him, I'll just say I think it goes to his kind of stubbornness to say, I'll show you that the way I play this game is good enough.
Yep. All right, the Sixers have begun a 6-game road trip. They won their first 2, a little shaky at times in both of them. They now have 3 very tough ones out west against the Lakers, Clippers, and Nuggets. As you noticed, or as you said, they're still without Joel Embiid. How important is this trip to Los Angeles and Denver? Do they have to win, 2 out of these 3, or doesn't it really matter?
Well, I mean, I think you really want to have that top seed in the East.
Yeah.
It's just, that's truth of the matter. And I know you're not going into packed buildings like you would on a normal year, but I think you want in your mind to know you're the best in the conference coming out of the regular season. So I think Brooklyn's looking at it like that. They've won 11 straight against Western Conference teams. Harden last night had I think it was 27 and 17 assists. So they're not going away. Milwaukee's not going away. So I think it's important that you just have to keep banking wins as often as you can. Now, do we expect them to go undefeated on this trip? No, I it's somewhere along the line. But you should be able to take advantage of a Laker team that's missing their top two guys. I think Denver's playing very well, and obviously the Joker will be loving that Embiid's not there, right? So he's also trying to prove while LeBron and Embiid are sidelined, he's trying to say, hey, how about me for MVP? I'm out here. I'm playing. And, his numbers are, I think I saw the other day, he's 27, 12 boards, and 8.5 assists. That's what he's averaging. So I would say, you'd like to get 2 of those 3.
What's the word, D, on the Durant injury? Does that look like something that's a little more than what we're hearing from the press, or you got any insight there?
Well, I mean, it's a groin injury, so I think, you just, again, I don't think you want to mess with it. And I think the other thing with Durant, look, when he's been out there, he's been outstanding for them, but he hasn't been able to be out there. And I think with him, he knows as well as anybody, when it matters is when I need to be able to be out there for good. And while his same thing is happening for them, they're not going away and he's not on the court. So why am I going to rush him back with a thing that's a dicey injury to begin with when I'm maintaining a game out of first place in the league? I mean, in the conference.
Well, D, many positives for the Sixers already this season. We talked about a bunch of them. One we didn't mention, Tobias Harris. He's showing he's really pretty good. And as he would tell you, he should have been an all-star this year. Even on Sunday when he struggled most of the game against the Knicks, he came up huge in the overtime. Is that another impact or effect of Doc Rivers, who he seems to play better when he's, with?
I would say 2 things. That one, I like him as a stretch 4 personally. And he wasn't that last year. And when I say stretch, I just like him playing the 4 spot. I think there is some comfort level, but it's also because, like Doc thought last year, he didn't make quick enough decisions if he was looking at tape of him playing a year ago. I think he is shooting the ball better. And the other thing I would say, when he struggles, one time he has not struggled. He's been really good in a lot of fourth quarters. And a lot of, the couple overtimes that they've played. This guy has flat out delivered. So I've been a big proponent. I don't know. I get a lot of people who call into my show and they're not as big on Tobias as I am. And I have been for a long time since he got here. So I'm kind of happy for him that he's putting up the numbers that he is. And I think it's, again, system is a big part of it. The confidence that coach understands you, but he also has challenged Tobias to do these things. And by the way, don't do that. So I think that's like a 2-way street for the 2 of them.
Well, Dean, looking into the crystal ball, the Sixers have played 44 games as I look at my notes here. 44 games, still ways to go. You like them? You like them winning this East? Do you feel pretty confident with what they got?
I'll have a better idea tomorrow. I really want to see if anything big happens in the East at the trade deadline. I do think Kyle Lowry is going somewhere. I don't know where that will be, but I think he ends up on a different team. And if you're Toronto, I get it. His contract is an expiring one. They've lost, I think, 8 in a row. They're going nowhere. And, he's beloved there. And so you're kind of doing it to start your own rebuilding and also maybe to do good by Kyle and put him in a winning situation where he possibly has a chance to get another championship. So where is that? I mean, he could go to LA. He could go to the Miami, who I know hasn't played well, but all they're wanting to do is get healthy, add a little offense. And, Kyle is a winner and fits a lot of the personality that Pat Riley tries to put together down there. So again, I don't know what exactly people are putting on the table, so that makes it more attractive to Toronto, or where Kyle is. Like the Raptors and Kyle are trying to do this together, knowing that it is a business also. So to answer your question, I'd like to see what happens in the conference at the trade deadline. I think they have their work cut out for them to come out of the East. I'm not saying they can't, but it will take them playing at a high level, higher than we've seen in previous postseasons. And you're going to have Embiid return to play the way he was playing before he got, the weird injury, the weird fall, I should say.
I want to ask you something else. Former Sixer Sean Bradley recently had a tragic accident, suffering a spinal cord injury that's left him paralyzed, unfortunately. I know you didn't start covering the Sixers until after Sean had left Philly. He played with the Nets and Mavericks after that. But by all accounts, a great guy. Did you get to know Sean at all? And we do send him the very best, of course.
Yeah, of course. I did not know Sean well. Obviously, my parents did. But I never really had an opportunity because I was living on the West Coast when he was with the Sixers organization. Yeah. I will say this, it's been a tough go for his family. His accident comes only a couple of years removed from his dad had a tragic accident and was working on a roof, his own roof, and fell and died. And he was a young man. He was only 61 at the time. So their family certainly has had some tragedy that they've had to deal with. But he is, by all accounts, a very strong-willed person. And he, just by a couple of people who are friendly with him, said he's in a very good place mentally, which I think is usually with those kind of accidents, really is your first and biggest challenge to understand how long the road is ahead of you.
Hey, Dee, I want to jump over just a second because I know you're a basketball junkie, so you're probably watching as much of March Madness as you can, or at least the Villanova portion anyway.
Well, no, I am. Until my bracket, I was like, Chet, I had Illinois winning it all. So as soon as that went south, I went to the golf course and said, I'll read the capsules about who did what.
I hear you.
I have to ask you, what do you think about the job Jay Wright's doing? He's a great coach, and here he is, loses probably his best player, one of his best players, and here he is, he's in the Sweet 16 and going to face number 1 Baylor, and hey, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I will say this. It's funny that you use that phrase. I had said to somebody, even though they were down Gillespie, I said it's really hard to bet against Jay's coaching. I mean, that's the one thing that is solid, and it always seems to have been the same once they've decided how they were playing over now I don't know how many years, maybe the last 7, 8. So I would agree with you. I will say that the Baylor team is, I had them in the Final Four, so I think they're really strong, and they're an older group. Not saying that has to be the end all. But I will tell you that they will have their work cut out going up against Baylor for sure.
All right, Dee. Well, thanks again for coming by. As always, we appreciate you, and one of our favorites for sure.
I always appreciate the invitation. Thank you to both of you.
Thanks, Dee. See you later.